Pompeo pushes back against Turkey, stands by U.S. account of disputed meeting. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the U.S. did not misrepresent or fabricate details about a meeting he held Wednesday with Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, as tensions escalate between the NATO allies. Stand. The U.S. readout of that meeting could pass for a list of irritants in Washington's relationship with Ankara. The State Department asked about the Turkish claims on Thursday. At the close of a meeting of NATO members, Pompeo said, Pompeo spoke at the close of a meeting to mark the 70th anniversary of the 29-member Transatlantic Alliance, touching on threats from Iran and Chinese technology giant Huawei, repeating his threat that the U.S. may not share intelligence with countries that buy its equipment, as well as the situation in Venezuela. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said the alliance had agreed on it. The alliance also called for Russia to end its annexation of Crimea, release Ukrainian sailors and ships seized in a 2018 confrontation, and adhere to the Intermediate-Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. Turkey's planned purchase of the $2.5 billion S-400 anti-aircraft missile system has become a particular point of tension. On Wednesday, Vice President Mike Pence warned Turkey against going ahead with the purchase of the Russian-made missile system, hours after the Turkish foreign minister said the acquisition was a. Speaking Wednesday at the NATO Engages summit in Washington, Pence said the weapons purchase could threaten. U.S. officials have long warned Turkey that it would not be allowed to acquire the F-35 stealth jet if it goes ahead with the missile system purchase. The U.S. believed, on Monday the Pentagon announced it would halt all F-35 equipment transfers to Turkey unless Ankara irrevocably abandoned plans to acquire the S-400 system. Turkey. His comments drew a sharp response from his Turkish counterpart, who issued an ultimatum of his own, demanding the U.S. end its support for Kurdish groups in Syria who have fought ISIS. Pompeo also said Thursday that the U.S. had shared its risk analysis on Chinese technology from the telecom giant Huawei and reiterated that the U.S. would not be able to share information with countries that use the technology in their security systems. End.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,